Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NFL veteran and Super Bowl champion, Will Blackman.
Manning from the end zone. He throws, and a deflect away, and it is picked off by Will Blackman, the former Giant.
Tim Dwight watches it hit, bounces, picks it up at the 10, slips a defender, fumbles the football. It's up for grabs. It's covered in the end zone by Will Blackman for a Green Bay touchdown.
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Ric Bucher.
Ric Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Blackman, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends on the United WeCast network. One of us is stuffing his face. The other one is not. I'm Ric Bucher. I think you can guess that I'm not. He's Will Blackman, Super Bowl champ. You can catch him when he's not eating on NFL Game Day Live, Sundays on NFL Network, and on Twitter at Will Blackman. You can read my stuff on Bleacher Report and at Ric Bucher on Twitter, and you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bucher Friends. If you enjoy the show, please drop us a rating and review with iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Screenshot the review and tweet it to at Bucher Friends, and you'll be eligible to win some prizes. We are the drawing for the gift card, the Amazon gift card for filling out the survey on BucherandFriends.com. That is over. And John Libby, our producer, will be announcing very shortly who won that drawing. I want to thank everyone who participated in filling out the survey. We appreciate it, and we really appreciate that so many of you had good things to say about the show. We will continue our work and try to get better. All right, Will, by the way, what are we eating tonight? And I should say that I give Will a pass on eating as we started the show because he has been Mr. Mom today. This is probably his first opportunity to get any sustenance. He's having to take care of the fort with Mama ailing. So
can I first give a quick shout out to Google if possible?
To Google. Okay.
Okay. I've been suffering just trying to figure out this whole Wi-Fi thing in my house, and then a buddy of mine said, "Hey man, you need to get the Google Home Wi-Fi system."
Really?
And I went and got that thing, and I tell you what, changed our life. Quick shout out to Google. But yes, my wife Shauna, she is down for the count. Some kind of stomach bug, don't know what it is. So you know what? I had to do the whole entire day. And I enjoyed it. I always enjoy it. It's not the first time I had to watch my kids myself or our kids. But the day I had to get up and then get their clothes ready, get their lunches ready. And our son is kind of high maintenance, so he doesn't just want cereal. He wants eggs, sourdough toast, sausages, pancakes. He wants the full deal. Take him to school, take her to school. I had to train today, but I had my days mixed up. Came home, got to spend time with my wife, take care of her, go pick up the daughter, bring her home, then go pick up our son, bring him home, and then practice guitar with our son, played with our daughter, gave them both baths and showers, and just finished making dinner.
Wow. And here you are, adding a podcast
12 hours later.
Yeah, to the entire list. Well done. Yeah, as you said before we came on, having to do a full day like that gives you a new appreciation from what moms do on the regular and the energy that's expended in just getting people where they need to go and having what they need to have. So when they do it at an elite level,
yeah, like it's a whole nother job.
Agreed.
Shout out to Shauna Blackman.
So when it comes to you were obviously under a little duress today. How do we do with the language?
Oh, on the money, dude.
We're on point with that. Okay.
Yeah, because two things. I told you about it, and then I told my wife about it.
Right.
Once I told my wife about it,
that's it. Understood. All right. So
it's like the steps of addiction, right? If you have addiction, tell somebody.
Right.
And once you tell somebody, you're held accountable.
That's very, very good. Speak your truth. No secrets.
None.
And then, you're accountable. That's very well said. So for those who may not have tuned in to yesterday's podcast, we started off by talking about Will's 4-year-old daughter who used how are we referencing it? Because I advertised what it was.
I don't want it advertised.
And you didn't want it advertised. I didn't say who said it. I just said dealing with a 4-year-old who happens to drop, a word that they shouldn't be using. So in any event, I'm trying to be respectful.
No, anyhow, so what happened was she ended up saying a bad word, the F word, and I had a miniature conversation, asked her what did she say first, and then where did she hear it from? And when I asked her where did she hear it from, she said, "From you, Dad."
Yeah. So now you're on point. And
I'm on point.
And we appreciate her honesty too.
Yeah. Call me out. Please,
Exactly. All right. So speaking of secrets, speaking of untoward subjects, we're going to start with the New England Patriots owner, Robert Kraft, and soliciting prostitution, I believe, is the charge. He went into a Asian massage parlor, as the police report suggests, and was provided some extra service. In fact, that was actually the only service that he was provided based on the police report. And now it has become a big issue, and people are debating what actually should happen to Robert Kraft. I'll start with you, Will, because I have some feelings. I have some thoughts about this.
Then I'll start with you if you have feelings and thoughts about this.
Okay.
I'm very curious.
I don't want to suggest that such behavior shouldn't be monitored, but he's not married. Is it illegal? Is it technically illegal? I'm not condoning illegal behavior. All the talk about how much he should be fined, or should he be suspended, or should he be forced to sell the team? I mean, even I've heard every extreme notion. I just can't get that worked up about this. And it would be whether it's the owner of the New England Patriots, or it's my neighbor, or it's an NFL player, or whatever. I feel as if we're making a huge deal out of this that is just not warranted. Is it a bad look? Absolutely.
Right, yeah, no question about it.
But beyond that, it's become such a thing, and I'm thinking, on the scale of all the bad things that are happening in the world, and I want to give you a chance to speak on this, but it reminds me of Gary Owen, who is also on the United WeCast network, comedian, actor, and he lost his brother to a heroin overdose. And the first time his brother OD'd, I believe it was not when he OD'd and died, but simply when he OD'd and had to be rushed to the hospital, Gary went home and he's watching on TV, and there's had been this 6-month, 8-month sting on a Asian massage parlor. And he's looking at it saying, we got people dying of opioid addiction and the use of opioids all through the Midwest. He's from Ohio. And we're spending 6 to 8 months to try to catch somebody getting a what's are our priorities really in the right place? And I can't. And he meant it kind of as a joke, because he's a comedian. But there's
it's like what are we spending our time and attention on? What's the real thing here?
Yes,
are we putting guys behind bars for years because they had 2 grams of marijuana on them?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. The 3 strikes. Somebody gets popped a couple times for drug possession at a time where now it's legal in states. How is that balanced? How can you go from one extreme to the other? Someone's put away for years, for life, and now it's actually the thing that they were doing is considered not even a misdemeanor. Right. It's crazy. And this, I don't know whether it's the history of the Patriots and that they're trying to take somebody down who is as successful as they are. But honestly, I don't understand what the big deal is.
It's because he is so successful, and he is such a strong public figure and does a lot in the community. I think he's supposed to go to Jerusalem to get enshrined in something. something for him.
That's not good timing.
Yeah, I know. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
And what the issue initially was when the reports came out. The word trafficking was tossed all over the place.
I thought he was running a prostitution ring, which would be an entirely different thing.
That's a whole different ballgame. No, and it's funny because I mentioned that on Twitter and people were coming at me left and right like, you think he's gonna have to sell the team? Because some guy said, hey, he's doing that. I said I heard some people said trafficking. He goes, what do you think would happen if that's the case? I said he would definitely have to sell the team immediately. So when I put that, people are thinking I said sell the team because of he went to a parlor and, paid a girl $100 plus to do something extra,
And he's like, he's 70 years old. He's in his 70s, right? And it's the day of the AFC Conference Championship. And he decides to go in and relax a little bit. And all of it, I'm like, he's 70 something. He's not married. He goes in 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out. And now we're making this like he's got to lose his team. He's got to get fined multiple whatever. People are saying, he might have to pay. I guess there's a video. There's video surveillance or whatever, and he'll pay like $10-20 million for that not to come out. And I'm thinking, you know what? Screw it. Anybody who's going to get their kicks out of seeing a 70-year-old man have some, get filleted.
First of all, we don't know what went on in that room. So
no. Well,
maybe.
The police report is pretty descriptive.
Okay.
Based on the police report, and it is a report, but I don't know whether they have the video and the report has been substantiated by the video, but he got filleted. He got got more than just the handy. But again, I like, other than the intimacy of it and, being personally exposed like that, if nobody's getting hurt and you're a 70 something and you're still having sex, dude, I would think you'd go ahead, show the tape, let the video out.
Listen, I laughed because yesterday this man was on the Oscar party circuit. He's not worried about anything. Yeah. That man was out and about at all the parties with people who have done way worse things than that.
It's not even. It's really. It's funny because when it first, as you said, when the story first broke, I thought, "Ooh, this is not good," and this could smear his reputation. This could really dull what the Patriots have accomplished, whether you think that's fair or otherwise. But then I read the police report and I got the details of it. And I thought, people have been yammering about this for 48 hours already? Like, what? It's
no different if he was at a gentleman's club spending money out there and then, maybe went and got a dance, did something extra.
And how, like, the number of celebrities or just everyday life people that are doing that on a regular basis?
Dude, my wife was in the music industry when she was signed, and some of her bosses, they had business meetings at those places. And when she was in Atlanta, they're like Rite Aids. They're like,
yeah, no, 100%. Well, the last MLS champions, went and celebrated their championship. The Atlanta franchise went and celebrated their championship at a gentleman's club, and there was one of the dancers was like twerking on the trophy, and there's photos that went viral of that transpiring. Now, did they kick the Atlanta franchise out of the league? Did they did they suggest that the owner had to pay a fine or sell the team? It's like, I'm just astonished at some of the things that we get all hot and bothered about. And the problem is, as you said, we get hot and bothered about things like this, and then the things that really deserve our attention and serious discussion go by the boards. The imbalance in what we think is important just seems to be absolutely crazy. So,
for example, Kareem Hunt just got a job.
Yeah, and how much discussion was there really about that, and what was behind that, and the look for the NFL? That is, in my mind, raises some far greater questions than anything that Robert Kraft did.
Rob is not worried about a damn thing. Like I said, this man was hanging out last night.
Hey, he was proud. And by the way, you mentioned the Oscars. Imagine how many call girls, escorts were hired around the Oscars by people going to the Oscars, by people going to Oscars parties, just because they wanted to look like they had, as Frank Sinatra said, cufflinks. Like they were rolling.
I live in Orange County, okay?
Yeah.
And Newport. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you.
I hear you.
I'm with you. All right. Let's get to more important things. What the hell's Joe Flacco doing in Denver?
What's he doing in Denver?
Yeah.
He's trying to recreate that overtime pass he made. Oh my gosh. You know what? I think what they get him for the 4th, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually pretty good.
Help me understand this though. And maybe it's just because of the history. It feels as if John Elway is searching, swinging and missing when it comes to finding a quarterback, which feels odd considering how good of a quarterback he was. And maybe that's the Achilles heel. Maybe that's the tragic flaw.
I think right now he's the best option, taking into account the offensive talent around, like the offensive style and the contract. I think that's his best option right now.
You mean John Elway in terms of what he could have acquired?
Yes.
Okay.
And giving a fourth to get Joe Flacco in the meantime is nothing. And now the unfortunate thing is Joe Flacco is going to be in another situation where he's going to have to mentor another rookie eventually.
True. I suppose the aspect that bothers me the most, and I always appreciate that players are truthful. You know, we want athletes to tell the truth, and then when they do, we get upset. So I have to phrase this correctly. I appreciate that Joe Flacco was honest in that when he got his big contract, that he didn't work as hard as he had previously. I appreciate that honesty.
Right.
At the same time, when you're awarded a contract like that, the principle of not doing everything you can to earn it. And this is, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I think it's human nature to a certain extent. When you are working your butt off to achieve something and you finally achieve it, that you exhale.
I feel like that's the norm.
Yeah.
I've seen so many guys do that. They get the contract. I mean, the hard thing, and I don't want to say in Joe's defense, but he earned the contract by winning the Super Bowl. And it's kind of like, I brought you guys the title, you know. Maybe he didn't have that hunger, that desire. He got the money, got the title to work for another one.
Yeah, you know what's really weird is he supposedly celebrated by like going to McDonald's or Burger King or something like that. So it wasn't as if he got, like if it was a guy, look, there's guys, you probably played with some, you know them. The old line, Jarrett Jack was the first guy who said it to me. There's guys who play the game because of what they can do in the game, and then there are guys who play the game for what the game can do for them. Meaning,
no question,
right? And based on that, he gets paid, but it doesn't really. He's not a guy who's spending money. My first thought was, okay, well, he's not about the money, but I guess he was in some respect. Like now that I am financially, me and my next two generations are financially secure, it stole some of whatever it was that drove him to play the game.
I look at it like, man, if I got that big contract, I would be so relaxed playing ball. I would have no stress playing football. I would just, because that's where the stress comes into it. It's like, man, especially if you're a mid to late round pick, It's like, man, I want to get paid. I got to get paid. You know, I want to get paid so I can just play ball. And that's, for me, if that would be the case, if I got a really good contract. I remember when I was in Jacksonville, there was this one guy trying to remember his name, but he said, man, I just want to get paid I just want to play ball so I can get paid and chill. Right. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I overheard. I was like, really, bro? I was like, those are the kind of guys I don't like.
Yeah.
Like, you come here and I'm busting my behind, playing ball, loving the sport, putting everything I can, putting time in, and then the guy's like, hey, I just want to chill, make money and then get out of here real quick.
Right. Well, there is, you mentioned there's the stress of not having a spot and not being financially secure. There's stress, and then there's hunger or pressure, right? And right. I just wonder once you, and again, I understand where guys exhale. On the other hand, I would like to think that if I were paid a huge sum, and I would say to a certain extent, like, as my role and what I was getting paid at ESPN increased, I was always motivated to do more, to make more, but also felt like an obligation. Like, I know where I am in the pay scale, and I want to make myself available. The thing that started to change I don't think it ever changed my work ethic, but once I got married and had a family, I now had to find a balance that I didn't have to worry about when I was single. I could devote and shape my entire life around the job. But look, it's a tricky thing. I would like to say that I've always tried to do great work. I have decidedly tried to reshape the work that I do in order to accommodate being a dad and a husband. I tried to change what I did so I wasn't traveling as much. There was a time where come playoffs, between playoffs, the draft, and free agency, I'd be home like 2 or 3 days.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And at one point when my kids were young and I was traveling and I was doing everything, and I'll never forget, I came home for a day and did my laundry and hung out with the kids and hung out with the fam, and then put my kids to bed and said to my daughter, I said, okay, I'm not going to be here in the morning, but I will be back whenever I said I was going to be back. And she started crying and she said, Dad, you just got home. And between that and having the option of doing some things other than ESPN, and I asked my kids, what do you think? And my son said, which one are you going to be home more? And that influenced what I did, and so to each his own. And I'm not comparing that to the Flacco situation. It just, I understand how. No,
it's like you prioritize. You have things in perspective.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like for me, like when I played, all my goals, I didn't have any financial goals. Now I had some things. Yeah, of course I wanted to get taken care of and know my worth.
Right.
I had all legacy goals.
Yeah.
I had all like accolades and stuff I wanted to accomplish. Mm-hmm. Like those are all my goals. That's why I played. But I was different though. I was the kid who grew up watching and hoping and wishing and dreaming.
Yeah.
I remember earlier this year, John Keim over ESPN DC. You know John at all?
Yeah, I know the name. I don't know him.
Okay. He did an interview with write up with Josh Norman. Josh said that if he wins a Super Bowl, quote, he said, "You can kiss my ass goodbye." I'm out of here.
I remember that. I remember that quote now. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and yeah, he was, country kid from South Carolina, earned a starting job in Carolina, played his behind off his last year there, earned that massive contract he got. But his thing was, he said, I have so many things going on outside of football. I don't need this like everybody. Some people need this.
Yeah.
He said, I don't need this. He said, so once I get a Super Bowl, I'm out of here. You can forget it. I mean, he did like Dance with the Stars. He did a bunch of other stuff. He's always on Fox. He's just like, he said, guys need this. And I was like, damn, that's such, I almost look at it like, damn, that's almost like a shot to guys who don't have anything else outside of football. Because of what he did football, it has influence outside things, like you said earlier.
There's also what I've seen are players are becoming far more conscious of taking advantage of their opportunities while they're playing. And I've counseled guys on this. There's a lot of guys who they have aspirations outside of football, but their feeling is I'm gonna focus and dedicate all my attention to my career and playing, and then when I retire, I'll go chase these other things. And where guys I think have become smarter is they've come to realize, once I'm an ex-player, I'm in a huge pool. I'm in a pool of, and the doors don't open and the phone calls aren't returned as quickly as opposed to when you're an active player, now you're in a very small pool. And
you are, because I'm getting jobs, but I still have to send out reels.
Yeah.
I have to start from scratch.
But you also, you at least had the consciousness to say, I'm going to cultivate relationships that could that I can utilize once I stop playing to do the next thing, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. I definitely networked and kept good relationships and didn't burn any bridges and just kept it cool, man. I respected everybody I came across.
I feel as if players have more players have come to realize that I got to try to do both while I'm playing. And I often use this as a reference, like Brent Jones and Steve Young, when they were winning Super Bowls with the 49ers, they started meeting with venture capitalists and people in Silicon Valley. Brent Jones now has a venture capital firm. Steve Young, Joe Montana, those guys, they set themselves up very nicely for their post careers by, when they were ultra hot, and Andre Iguodala, Kevin Durant, I see the same thing happen in the Bay Area. They're making these business connections now. They're getting involved in businesses now while they're hot. This is always the curious thing for me, though, is like, are you taking away some of your focus? Are you taking away some of your hunger? Are you taking away some of your single-minded zeal for the game and accomplishing as much as you can in the game if you diversify your interests while you're playing?
I say no, but not everyone can do that.
Okay. Is it a matter of talent? Is it a matter of discipline and focus? What is it that distinguishes the guys who can do it and still be successful? And this is always kind of the gray area. Like, you can be successful, but am I getting the most out of what I could be as a player? Maybe you're getting the most that you can out of your career by taking advantage of these ulterior or outside interests or opportunities. But I would always think, like, the thing that as a competitor, as an athlete, is, am I being the absolute best football player I can be while I still activate these outside opportunities?
I think I look at the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles. That was probably the most proactive team in social issues and anything you can think of that I can remember in a long time. And that was the issue with a lot of teams, is like, hey, I don't want you taking a knee. I don't want you putting the fist in the air. I don't want you doing this, doing that, doing all these things, because we don't want it to cause a distraction.
Right.
And with Malcolm Jenkins, with Chris Long, with everybody on that team just being so involved in anything, whether it was a mass shooting, whether it was in terms of, was it Chris Long donating his whole salary? Was it Malcolm Jenkins going around with the coalition? These guys were super active all the time, yet it did not take away from their goal.
Right.
I look at those three guys in the Warriors. You look at KD, you look at Andre Iguodala, you look at Steph Curry, all those guys who were involved in those things too. It did not take away from what they were doing. So, because I feel like with them at the end of the day, when it was time to take care of those things, they did that. When it was time to take care of ball, they took care of ball.
Right. So here's the question I have, particularly in season. Out of season, I think it's a little bit different. But in season, how many hours a day do you feel you needed during the week to fully prepare yourself, to do your job, to prepare yourself as a player and feel, because we have these, like the coaches, they're sleeping in their offices and they're around the clock and they're getting no sleep. And I think that can be I think that's overblown. That can be counterproductive. I'm wondering.
I think that's so unnecessary.
Yeah, I think it's actually counterproductive. I think if you're not getting enough sleep and you don't have a life balance, it can skew things for sure.
Dude, I would leave the facility like the days I would stay and watch extra film.
Yeah,
I will leave the facility and I would see the coaches in there. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna be here." I will leave at like maybe 9:30. They're like, "Yeah, we're gonna be here till like midnight." I'm like, "Why?"
Yeah. And then practice start when, or they'd be in when the next day?
They got to come back at like 6 or 7 o'clock the next day.
Yeah.
It's like, go home, bro.
Yeah.
That's why I've been offered or been considered for a couple of coaching internships in the NFL. And my only reservation is I can't put those dog hours back in again.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that because that's what I did. I played 12 years. And to answer your question, how many more hours did I need to feel fully prepared outside of what we've done as a team?
Yeah. And how many hours as a team would you put in?
As a team, let's say I get there 7:30, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm probably done around 3:30.
Okay.
Right? So that's what we're there for. Now for myself, probably 2 hours a day. So, Monday through Friday, 2 hours a day. So 10 hours extra a week.
Okay. You're putting in 2 extra hours a day.
Yeah.
Okay. So that still puts you in the 5:30, 6:30 range, or as far as 7:30 to 6:30. You're putting in.
I'm saying like I will go home.
Yeah. And then come back. But it's 12-hour days. You're putting in about 12 hours a day.
Right.
Which leaves you 12 hours. So it's not crazy in it. And I imagine, that's always the beauty for me in covering, which is you devoted yourself in season. Everything my schedule was based on what I needed to do, where I needed to be, the games I needed to cover, et cetera, stories that were breaking, whatever it might be. But then during the off season, although the off season has gotten smaller and smaller, right? You had time where you could get away, or you'd have days that were relatively light. And that was the way that the job worked. For you, off season. So how many hours were you putting in during the off season to prepare for the next season?
Once we started training, probably anywhere between like 5 to 6 hours a day.
Okay.
Yeah, because during the season, you figure 12 hours is football, 5 with my family, and then I probably got like 7 hours a night of sleep.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my deal right there. And during the off season, once we started training, probably 5 to 6 hours of whether it was training or whether it was studying or massage, prehab, rehab, whatever it was.
So here's the other element.
Really quick, I want to touch on like I said, the Josh thing. I don't want to make it seem like, he was like, I'm out of here. Like, I don't know where his heart is. I know he does a lot of work in terms of like other countries, Mexico, Africa. He has a charity for Flint, helping their water out.
Right.
All these things, so that it could be a situation where it's like, I think the way he put it out there was, hey, kiss my ass goodbye. These guys need this, is probably was the wrong way he wanted to go about it. Because I just feel like maybe in his heart, he that's what he feel like maybe that's what his calling is, his mission is,
Right. Well, and it's also, did you hear him say that, or did you read him say that?
I read him say that.
So sometimes the nuance of what he said, or if it was part of a bigger conversation, or not hearing the tone of voice in which he said it, can really skew how it comes off.
But I was his locker mate, and I can hear him.
Fair enough. Well, again, like you're just talking about like all these things that he's involved in. And I go back to the world was on fire. The sports world was on fire for 15 minutes that Robert Kraft spent in an Asian massage parlor. Like, come on. With everything that's going on in the world, with all the issues and the interests and the concerns, the water situation in Flint, Michigan deserves way more of our time and our attention than freaking Robert Kraft getting a happy ending. Happy beginning, happy ending.
By the way,
But what actually, I will say this: the one thing I am curious about, like I assume you go into a massage parlor to get a massage, and then if you decide to get the extra, you get the extra, right? It seems like he just went in for one reason and one reason only, and that's a little bit. I mean, while you're there, why not get a massage? Like, get the full compliment, like the left side of the menu. That's a little odd. That's just a little odd to me.
by the way,
He's so rich, he could have somebody come over to his house. He could send the Bentley to get them to, like,
listen,
you know?
there's plenty of girls who are trying to come up in this world.
Yeah, exactly.
There are plenty of pretty girls who are trying to come up in this world, and they are willing to spend their time with a 74-year-old billionaire.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure. That's the
like I was saying. By the way, the Alliance of American Football co-founder Charlie Ebersol,
yes,
is being sued.
Why?
Because apparently, this guy Robert Vinetch, the co-founder and CFO of Treble Music, said he had a handshake agreement with him.
On what?
On starting the league.
Well, he could have just bought in, right? Which owner was it that just bought, like, kind of essentially bought the league for like $230 million?
Hurricanes, the hockey team, right?
Was it really? It was the NHL guy.
Yeah, the Carolina Hurricanes, the hockey team.
Okay. You and I have not talked about the AAF for a couple of weeks now since the introduction. Have you been watching? How avidly have you been watching?
I got into it the first week.
Yeah.
And then kind of just, though, I need to find out when it's being televised and when it's not, because I'm always missing it. I'm always catching the end or catching the beginning of it.
100% with you. I tune into the NFL Network, and I end up watching whatever they're replaying. I just watched the San Diego-San Antonio game, but the whole idea that this was going to eclipse the NBA, this is what worries me. As we talked about, I was impressed with the production coming out of the gate. I still am, but for whatever reason, I don't get the sense that the buzz is being sustained or is growing. And I don't know what to make of that, but and I don't have hard, fast numbers to say that. I just, from an anecdotal standpoint, I don't hear anybody talking about it the way they did the first weekend.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel like it's no different right now than Arena, where if it's on, people will watch it.
Yeah.
But they're not, I don't think, really checking the local listings to find when it's coming on.
Yeah. They do have to find a way to, because I'm right there with you. Like, every once in a while, it's like, oh, what? There's a game tonight? Or there's a game going on right now? Or somebody just played? I'm with you 100%. And not that I don't know if it's an appointment viewing, but I feel like if I knew exactly when it was, I would be more inclined to flip it on than right now, where I feel, and that kind of contributes to it. Like, if you think it's a big deal, you know when meaningful games are being played. NBA, you know when the big games are being played. Whether you watch them or not can still be the question. This feels like that's where they're dropping the ball. All right. That does it for this episode of Bucher and Blackman's subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast network. By the way, if you are interested, you have to check out one of our other podcasts by Lindsay Hyken. She's an endurance athlete. She's also a mom and a realtor and everything else. But she did, and you and I will talk about, maybe we'll talk about this, maybe we won't. She talked about the effect of being an endurance athlete on your libido, on your sex life, and how you would think that these uber fit, these unbelievable athletes, that they would be having a great sex life, certainly better than the couch potato. But it turns out that if you are training at an extreme level, it actually can have a negative effect on your libido. And it's a short one. It's called Age Groupie. It's a short podcast. It's about 15 minutes, but it was hilarious. I highly recommend listening to it. It was funny to hear a perspective on all of that. Trust me. Give it a listen. In our next podcast, Richard Jefferson, former NBA player, NBA champion, will join me. I ran into him in the airport, and I instantly recognized that he was doing the thing that celebrities do, or people that are recognizable.
He wore a hoodie?
No, he didn't wear a hoodie, but there are a bunch of tricks that when you are out in public, for people that are easily recognized, how they avoid getting roped into...
He answered the phone.
No. Oh, you're going to have to be the follow-up. We'll talk about all the tricks that you have that Richard may not explain to us. But anyway, being recognizable in public, the tricks that are used. And I also want to talk to him. He's good friends with Luke Walton. He's also very close to LeBron James.
Did he board the plane last?
Bingo. That's part of it. That's one of the many things that he did. Another one I'll just as a teaser. You don't, because he was taking the same flight as I was, but he was walking to another gate. And I'm like, hey, yo. And he wasn't making eye contact. I said, yo, Richard. And finally he kind of glanced, recognized me, and he stopped, and we talked and whatnot. And when he's taking a flight, he never waits at his gate. He waits at some other gate and then runs over and gets on the plane. One of apparently many tricks that he uses. Anyway, we're going to have a fun conversation about that, as well as how he is bridging the gap between LeBron and Luke Walton if he's picking sides here, because right now there seems to be a battle between the two.
There is.
Yes.
I wanted to. Sorry, I thought about that when we talked about LeBron calling out his teammates.
Yes,
saying that the lack of urgency.
Yes,
that is a head coach quote.
Yes,
that is a head coach type of comment.
Yeah, well, and it's a comment.
What the hell is Luke?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know what? After I do the podcast with Richard, you and I will circle back when we have our next podcast next Monday, and we will discuss what he has to say along with sort of that friction that's created between LeBron and pretty much every head coach he's ever had. So we're giving you a tease not only for the next podcast, we're giving you a tease for Monday's podcast as well. As always, rate us wherever you get your podcast. Please send us a rating, screenshot it, send it to us at Bucher Friends. In the meantime, thanks for listening.